IF23 broke up with my partner of 4 years M28 and he might end up homeless or worse. Should I help him with the case or leave him? AITAH, honestly heartbroken right now, but I need to get this off my chest to anyone. This is the most embarrassing story you will ever read. IF23 broke up with my partner of 4 years M28 last night. To say our relationship was toxic is an understatement. 4 years ago I met him at community service. We hit things off really well. I was 18 years old at the time and just got caught for underage drinking. I was sentenced community service and chose a dog shelter. We met, hit it off talking about life, and he asked for my Snapchat. He was 24/25 at the time. Our first date was weird. He put hickeys all over my neck like I was beat up. I did not like it and planned to never see him again. I left my charger in his car though and was too poor to replace it lol, so I met with him again. This time he was sweeter. 3 months later he made a video collage of our dating and asked me to be his girlfriend. I accepted. 6 months into dating we were living with each other on and off. He accused me of cheating. I wasn't, so I asked to see his phone. I saw the texts of him texting women and failing and broke up with him. For some reason I wanted to give it another try, so I hit him up so we could date again. Caught him again 6 months later. Didn't leave. During the cheating he was also getting in trouble with the law a lot. Speeding, DUI, mostly car-related incidents. I was living in his house with his parents and his brother, because he got his license taken away and needed rides to work. I had already met a lot of his family at this point, so I just got right in as I thought. After 3 to 4 months of living there, I guess the parents told him they didn't want me there anymore. His parents never really started any conversations with me, and TBH, this was my first boyfriend and I was extremely shy. I probably could have spoken to them more. I really wasn't sure how to navigate the parent part, and the mom barely spoke English. I didn't fight it though. He said I could stay until the end of the week. One night I got back from work. I walked in and I saw his sister, who had just landed in America. I said, "Hey, nice to see you again. How are you?" She told me to sit down on the couch. She went on a rant about how I'm because I have no ring and I'm sleeping with my partner. How because I'm an atheist I'm practicing dark magic. She went on about how her sister had a dream that I gave my partner a black book and it had a snake on it, which means I'm going to be the end of him. She accused me of being homeless and asked if I needed money. I lived with my parents at the time in a pretty nice house, might I add. The point is I was nowhere close to being homeless. 1 hour of her ranting and the parents walk into the house. They join in, but in their foreign language. They all start talking about me in front of me in their living room. They would point at me and say, "Yeah," or nod their heads in agreement. The sister would translate and it was all the same things she was saying, for another hour. I got fed up and left, called my partner, and apparently he went there and yelled at them. I was so angry. The one thing that hurt me the most is how little my partner did about it. We later decided to get an apartment together. I was 19 years old at this point. Things were honestly great until 2 months after moving into the apartment I found out I was pregnant. This was literally the worst nightmare of my life. I was making $13 an hour, unmarried and TBH too young, 20. Before I got pregnant we had a conversation about pregnancy. He wanted to keep it and I swore I would get an if I'm not married. TW. Saw. I think by now you could tell he had addictions. He liked rough, and so did I, but he wanted, like every day, 2 to 3 times a day. After a few weeks of this I got tired. My vag was raw nearly. I started to say no to, he did not listen. This went on for weeks. I was not on birth control and he knew it, but would take off the condom when I wasn't looking or rely on plan Bs and force me to have raw with him while I'm physically pushing him off me and saying stop. I told him if I got pregnant I would never forgive him. I didn't leave though. I was so young and I couldn't understand that this wasn't love. After finding out I got pregnant, I told him, and surprisingly he didn't fight he paid for it. The first time I went to the clinic they told me I was too early, 1 month pregnant, and I would have to come back in 2 weeks, so I would be 6 weeks pregnant. For 2 weeks I threw up everything. It was the most tortuous time of my life, I swear. I went back 2 weeks later, got the pills, took the first one and the next day took the second one. Me. I took the pill and my partner left to go do car stuff when I wanted him to be with me since I knew it was going to be crazy painful. I screamed for 2 hours, cried, threw up. He never showed up. Eventually he did show up and I was knocked out. I stood up for the first time and my entire body was so sore and weak. I had passed the fetus earlier. I felt so extremely dead. At the time I really didn't put much thought into the baby, but a few weeks later a deep depression set in. 1 week after my partner was begging for I was not to insert anything in my vag for 1 month, including tampons per doctor's orders. He eventually got me down and basically raped me. This is when the depression got worse. 1 month later he proposed to me, and I accepted. I started drinking heavily to get through daily life. I was teaching kids while being drunk. No one noticed, except me. I started getting extremely agitated and probably a little violent. I threw things in the apartment and I wanted to, myself, quite frankly. I started to resent my partner and the situation that happened with his family and other various events that I haven't even mentioned. I told him I thought he was weak for letting his family walk all over me and insult me like that while he still goes over there and hangs out with them. Not just hang out with them, but he would come back and tell me things like his mother wants him to take the gold chain he gave me and give it to her. IDK if it was a lie or what, but it was like he used them to make me jealous. I told him I wanted to talk to them. My original idea was to go there by myself and see if they would chat with me one-on-one about the situation. I would just knock on the door, state my case, and if they slammed the door on me, then so be it. My partner said, "No, I will go with you." After trying to talk him out of this, we decided to set up a dinner. After all, we were engaged and I wanted to amend differences. The parents told me I was child and they would not talk to me because it's part of their culture. I did not like this. My partner and I got the idea to stop by their house before a date night. This was normal still to try to talk to them and tell them we are engaged. This is where everything turned for the worse. We got to the apartment, walked in with the key we had like always, and sat down on the couch. They came out and started frowning when they saw me. We first tried to address the night where his sister insulted me. I tried to say that I understand in their culture it's normal to put women down like that, but here that is extremely hurtful. The conversation was actually pretty calm. The dad was apologetic, the mom was not. Somehow the conversation turned. My partner and his dad got into this contest about money and who has better education. There was yelling and tensions got higher. My partner started to mention things about his dad cheating, ironic, and the dad got defensive. Suddenly the brother pops out and starts yelling at me. I'm literally just sitting there in silence. He says, "Why did you bring this to our family? Why are you disrespecting the parents?" And I'm sitting there so confused. I got what I wanted, an apology, and now it was this whole other thing. I was literally just sitting there. Suddenly the father ran to his bedroom. Everyone is still screaming. He hobbles back out with a knife and is heading straight for me. My partner grabs his paper spray and sprays the dad. I get out of the way, left my phone and had to go back for it, and the father swipes at me again, but he can't see. I get out, but my partner is still in there and they are physically fighting, him, the brother and the father. Eventually his father stabs him twice, once in the back and once in the leg. My partner comes out bleeding, saying he has been stabbed. I put him on the front lawn, grab toilet paper roll and try to pack the wound as much as I can. I work in the medical field. I didn't know his leg was stabbed, so he was still going in out of conscious and I didn't know why. I called an ambulance and the police to come help. The entire time the brother is standing over me yelling, "This is your fault, what did you do?" while I'm the only one and a neighbor are trying to save his life. Police show up, arrest the father and load up my then fiancé into the ambulance. 40 minutes later they release the father. I drive to the hospital. The cop is there and tells us we might get charged for trespassing. A few days later I receive a collect call from the state prison after work. After I had left for work that day, my fiancé was still on bed rest after being discharged from the hospital. Apparently he decided to go to the police station to turn in more evidence. They arrested him. As it turns out they had a warrant. They arrested him for assault with a weapon, pepper spray and trespassing. We were in state with stand your ground laws, and that is the only reason the father received no charges. My partner called me and told me he was in prison. His bail was $16K. I almost passed out. Remember, I make $13 an hour and I rent an apartment. I could not believe the justice system had failed again. This was such an injustice, and I hope everyone involved gets what they deserve. I was there and that father and brother were aggressive for no reason. I didn't know what to do next, so I called my mom. My mom went through the same exact situation almost 10 years ago. Except it was with her own mother in her own house. She too was arrested and was not the main aggressor. I told my mom what happened and she told me what she did when it happened to her. She told me about the bondsman and how I could pay a low cut to get him out. Then I asked my mother for that money and she agreed. We went to the bail bondsman, my mother signed her name on the agreement and my partner was free to go. I have so much shame about involving my mother. That night I picked him up, and he blamed me for the entire situation. He literally hated me. He told me it was my fault his family cut him off, my fault that we went there, my fault he got stabbed. I was destroyed. Before he got arrested he was on the same side, but after he completely flipped. He started asking me when I could drain my savings to help him pay back the medical bills and the bail. I told him I didn't have any more savings. I had spent it mainly on alcohol. He demanded I pay up some way and I promised in the future I would repay him, but I had no money. I told him I would get a credit card, try to get a loan. The next 3 to 4 months were violent to say the least. Our relationship turned into boxing matches for real. During this time someone T-boned me and my car was totaled. I needed rides to work and he hated me, so it was a struggle. I quit my job and picked up a warehouse job to make more money. He eventually refused to give me a ride to work and we fought so bad I decided to move out. I told my parents and luckily at the time they were moving out of state. They bought my plane ticket. I packed all my stuff up, said my goodbyes. At the time my partner was supportive of me leaving and we flew out to the other side of the country, but I still missed him. I was still paying for my end of the lease once I moved out of state. Actually, my mom was paying it to make sure my partner was okay. It was like $600 for 2 to 3 more months. I told him when the lease ends, if he wants he can come out to the state I'm in and live with us. At first he declined, but I think he ran out of options of people who would let him stay. He had burned most bridges and he agreed to drive 12 hours and come live with us. He finally got here after a 2-day drive. When he got here it was awkward, I'm not gonna lie. We had been apart 3 months by then and honestly I was happy without him. But I had guilt about the stabbing and I wanted to help him. It was kind of awkward. I also forgot to mention I lost my libido after the I physically couldn't get turned on anymore and he settled in. Eventually it came up that he still blames me for the whole event and he admitted that he thinks we invited him because we owe him. At this point I'm done lol. He said, yeah, it's your fault, of course you had to bail me out, keep paying for rent and offer me a place to stay, which was actually mostly my mother. He kept criticizing my family, my new house, my sisters. But I understood he had just went through a traumatic event and was taking it out on me. After my weight went up, I reached 200 pounds. He would make weird comments about it, but I brushed it off. He never really attempted foreplay, so went like this. He pulls down my pants, shoves it in until the pain goes away and then finishes. I got really uninterested in. Flash forward to my birthday of this year. I turned 23 in January. I had a birthday trip planned and was up early. I saw his phone was unlocked and I saw the texts between him and another woman. My heart shattered right there. I have literally never been the same. I yelled, I screamed, I lost feelings for him, but we still went on my birthday trip because he had a car that could make it there and I didn't. He brought shrooms and I took them for the first time in years. When I was on shrooms my libido returned full force. It was the most instant thing ever and I'm not sure if it was also because I was texting other men after I found the texts on his phone, but I was so excited. I had, with him that night out of desperation. I hadn't felt any of this since we returned and reality set in. He started to trip on shrooms regularly and went into a psychotic break. He started telling me he can talk to God and that God specifically chose him to spread a better message. He was convinced he could perform magic and he kept crying while on shrooms, seemingly for the first time since the stabbing. My cat died 3 months after my birthday. My best friend of 13 years, she caught the rarest disease ever and died from it. The last 3 months I was so consumed with the cheating, I avoided my cat. I shut myself off to the world. I could barely make it into work. My assistant at work was pulling shady schemes. My entire life was crumbling and the whole time I had to listen to my partner lose his mind. The past few weeks I have been lonely. I want to date and not be tied down to him. I have been telling him this. I told him we need therapy, but he will agree to it and then do nothing about it. Last night I had enough. I told him I want him out by next Friday. We fell asleep in the same room while I cried myself to sleep. This morning, 2 years later, I get a text from the lawyers we hired that my partner's case went live. Now I feel terrible. I know he can't afford to live on his own and this case I was involved in. I'm in a bad situation and I'm not sure I made the right decision to break up. I'm lost and know I don't have any friends and I haven't told my parents yet. Edit. TLDR. I have been in an abusive relationship for 4 years which led to a legal dispute with his family. My partner and I both moved out of state and now live with my parents in their house. Last night I broke up with him, but when I got up this morning the lawyer texted me saying the case is live.